The enterprise buying journey is no longer linear. It takes many twists and turns and can even stall. And marketers need to understand that and adjust. Marketing is now a team sport, and it can be a contact team sport sometimes.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, we've done it. We're starting another amazing conversation, and I can't wait to introduce my guest to you today. She is a marketing leader, a leader of teams and of marketers and of companies, a thought leader. She is the one that teaches marketers what is up because she has this track record, decades of experience growing organizations. I'm not going to tell you how many decades because that would imply how many decades I might also have of experience. But let's just put it this way. She knows what she's talking about, and I can't wait to learn from her. She's got this track record with these triple-digit number increases and pipeline and revenue, reduction in sales cycle length. Like, she is the dream marketer for every sales professional in a company. She is the head of growth marketing at Archive 360. Gina Spero, welcome to the show.
Hey, Casey, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, this is cool. We're going to do this. I can't wait to learn from you because you know what? You've got some things to smash. So here, let me pass you this thing. It's kind of heavy, but okay. There we go.
All right, here we go.
You got it?
I got it.
Take it. There you go.
All
Take
right.
Thor's hammer. Smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right. MQLs do not matter. Boom. I said it. But what does matter is about account engagement. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, you may not need a whole notebook like you did with Christopher Antonopoulos, but hopefully I can impart a little bit of wisdom about this today.
You know, I'm back to my my single page where it forces me to use both sides. So I'm back to that. Yeah, Christopher, I let him go on the notebook, and he was too much, Chris. So let's get into MQLs. They're gone.
MQLs don't matter. Well, a lot of companies are still using that as their main marketing metric to measure the effectiveness of marketing, but it really doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why. Because, the average B2B enterprise SaaS sale involves, on average, 8 to 12 or more people across multiple, sometimes 4 or 5 functional areas across the organization, and can take anywhere from 8 to 24 months to close. So one contact from that account who clicks an email, even visits the website and pokes around, downloads a white paper, really is no longer a signal of readiness to buy in that type of environment. And so that's where the total account engagement comes into play.
Okay.
Well,
hold on a second. Yeah, it seems kind of like we let the B2C folks in, and we got a little transactional in the B2B world, and we thought like, oh, well, you do this little transaction for me in a form, and that means your giant enterprise is ready to purchase.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think we transition. You talked about decades of experience. When I first started, I actually started out in agency life. So big TV commercials, national spins, and if sales went up, everybody just said, "Hey, must have been the TV commercial." But now it's much more accountable, and so there was a necessity to have some metric, some measure by which you could justify your marketing spend. And MQL was something that was easy to measure because we can track ad clicks, we can track website visits, we can track content downloads. But it just has evolved, and organizations and marketing teams may not have evolved and kept pace.
Man, what an image of the, hey, it must have been the commercial. And I've got some friends and some local businesses who, have their ad on the sports channel, or the radio and sports radio. And they're just so excited to hear that. Probably the channel they listen to. But sometimes that's as far as it goes. It's that so anecdotal that they think it's working.
And well, it's especially in B2B, there's a lot of people to influence, and it can take, you know, 8, 10, 20 touches in a surround sound type of environment. But ultimately, there has to be a need. And so the idea behind account engagement is to stay in front of people with your message, make them aware. And when that need arises, or you can even help them understand that they have a need. Sometimes they don't even know they have a need, but it takes time. It's education and it takes time. So it's really, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. The enterprise buying journey is no longer linear. It takes many twists and turns and can even stall. And marketers need to understand that and adjust. Marketing is now a team sport, and it can be a contact team sport sometimes, I feel like, but it is a team sport, and it includes marketing and sales and the BDR team and customer success and even the product team. To get in there and create that answer to the need, the solution to the need, to the problem, that to the organizations that you're trying to sell to.
I love this. Man, let's go to church here. Let's figure this thing out because, I know I'm looking to get in those big accounts, and I know a lot of people listening here. That is their bread and butter. We've got mid market B2B, and we're a lot of SaaS listening, and we got to get this thing done. Multiple people, multiple months, multiple touches, multiple things. It's not just that single transaction anymore.
Hmm.
You talked to me. You had started talking about total account something, and I cut you off. And is it is that where we're going?
Yeah, total account engagement. So, I have 5 points that I want to try to impart today to help people get started, at least in this mind shift, because it really is, um, a reinventing of your marketing strategy, or a reorientation of your marketing strategy. So, I'm going to skip over the basics, like, you need to nail your positioning and you need to know your ICPs and your personas, because really that's the price of entry to the rodeo. But you really do need to start with a target account list. So in North America alone, there are 5,000 plus enterprise companies. Can any organization honestly say that every single one of those organizations is within their ICP? And if they are, do you have the team and resources and budget to consistently market to all of those organizations and pull them through the funnel? No. So you need to narrow it down. And the way you can do that is by um, creating segments and commonalities within your ICP. You look at your customers. What did it take to close that customer? What did they look like? Who was involved? What industry are they in? What pain did you help solve? And start creating much deeper segments that way, and smaller segments. Then you can need to start to apply some of those buying signals. Are they engaging
Oh,
in?
1 second before we get to buying
Yeah,
signals, let's talk
sure.
segments because I feel like probably a lot of people listening on the segmentation. It's a word. I mean, I even wrote a chapter in my book on segmentation, but I feel like sometimes I'm too close to it, especially in my own organization, right? It's so much easier to do consulting and see someone else's, hey, your segmentations are whack, right? But like but looking at your own, I feel like I've been so close to them that it's worth talking more about. So I've kind of just looked at like I have 2 main ICPs, but I'm getting kind of inspired listening to you, thinking about segmentation inside even of the ICPs themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one point two, jumping ahead, one of the things I really evangelize is personalization, personalization, personalization. And so the only way you can do that is to create some deeper segmentations inside your ICP. And fun fact, people can bounce in between segments. They can be, like I said, they can twist and turn, they can stall, they can go backwards on the customer journey. You may see a signal where they're very, very engaged online with your keywords, and then it stops and they go back, and then maybe reappear. Maybe,
But Gina, if they can stall and go backwards
yep.
and they can move between segments, how the hell do I put them on a nurture channel and have them just go through my linear path?
Yeah, well, we're no longer linear. That's
I
that's
guess
the
not,
point.
yeah.
So you really need you need a platform that where you can track that type of engagement. There's lots of really good ABM platforms out there. So I don't want to harp on just one, but
Any of them terrible? Are there any platforms to avoid?
they each have their pros and their cons. And honestly, if I had my druthers, I'd probably have two or three and use them for their pros. Because they each have a little bit something different to offer. But some are stronger on that intent and that intelligence side. Some are stronger on the executional side. You can run all of your emails, advertising, right out of that. And so some are just stronger in the integrations with your other systems, like your marketing automation program or your CRM. So yeah, so you really just have to make a list of your pros and cons and what you can and can't live without as an organization, and choose the one that best aligns to those qualities.
That makes sense. Could you walk me through an example of segments for you? Um, Either this company or another company, or just an example, because I'm thinking about how I might get more specific.
Yeah, sure. So when I first started here at Archive 360, they had never really done any kind of program like this. And so they just, you have to start somewhere, one of one. And they took a guess at what accounts might be uh, good for them and just started this program. And so it was 500 accounts that they were talking to all in the same way at almost a mid funnel level when many of these were cold. So first you want to start with, okay, what accounts are cold? Who knows you, who's engaged with you or not? Your cold accounts need a lot of warming, and they're going to stay in that kind of cold awareness stage probably for longer and not move like some of your other segments. Then within your engaged segments, you want to, like I said, you want to start looking for some commonalities. What industry are they in? Do you have an industry where you do better in than others? Some, do you have a particular a product that has a solution for a particular industry? So you might want to start narrowing down by industry or vertical. Then even within that industry and vertical, you can start narrowing down by engagement level. You can narrow down by the size of the company and what their organizational structure looks like, how many personas, target personas that they have listed in their organization. You can even start to organize by connections that your sales team has within those networks, so that you can leverage those connections within those customers and personalize the message to that connection. Really, the sky's the limit. However you feel like you want to segment, you can segment. And in account, there can even be a segment of one-to-one account-based marketing. It's a very, very high touch, high resource tactic, but it's also highly effective.
Awesome. So one is the segments within the ICP, and two, you're getting into the personalization.
Yeah. So personalization. Like I said, you have uh, uh, people that you need to talk to a little bit differently. And, people are very well aware when they feel like they're spoken to, like just like you can tell if something was written by Chat GPT versus a real blog author. People can tell. And so, they there's an old adage, people like to do business with who they like, and it still remains true to this day. But in today's buying cycle, like I said, 70, they're doing their own research. Everything is online now, and the power that power is shifted to the consumer, to the prospects, whether it's a B2C sale or a B2B sale. And by the time somebody agrees to a meeting, they've already done their research, and they've probably already identified their 2 to 3 preferred vendors. But now and they've probably identified their preferred vendor. Now they're just doing their due diligence across 2 or 3 to satisfy their procurement team. Um, so marketers need to shift and get that information, get that education up front and in the hands of their consumers and their prospects as early in the funnel as possible, and make it frictionless. No forms. Make it available. They'll come back to it. And you can support that they find it through your SEO and SEM strategies, but it's got to be there for them to find, and it's got to be easily and readily available. Um, Now, there are certain things you still may want to hide behind a form, an analyst report, a proprietary analysis report that you've done. There are still things worth gating, but those are usually further down the funnel anyway. Um, and then the personalization, what you're telling them, where you're sending them, how they're landing. Every marketing tool now has some level of personalization, even if it's just through your marketing automation platform. You can identify that account, and you can identify pages that they've looked at, and information and content that they've consumed. And the trick is incorporating all of that in a non Big Brother creepy way, but it shows that you're making the effort, you're meeting them halfway, and that's really, really makes the difference, that I found. My biggest mantra is that even though this is a B2B sale, you're still marketing to and talking to a human. And even though they are making decisions based on what's best for their organization, they still are human, and they're going to let those human feelings creep into the decision making, even if it's on an unconscious level.
Where do you see that the most? Is it illogical decisions, emotional decisions? Where do you see that humanity showing its cute little head?
Yeah, I really think it's once you I think that personalization and that human touch up front will help get you to that. Those are all non-human interactions, non-human touches, but that get you to that human touch where you can get your sales team or your BDR team, or your pre-sales engineer on a call with the prospects. And then at that point, I think that's where they start forming those kind of maybe biased unconscious decisions about whether or not they like this person. So you really need to, that's why it's a team sport. That's why marketing, and sales need to be aligned, and they need to understand the research behind the company, yeah, and behind the prospects that they're talking to. And it takes work. It takes a lot of work, but it's just like, I have one of my college professors once told me, luck favors the prepared. So, if you take the time to do the upfront research and put that time in and prepare yourself, it generally pays out in the end.
Yeah, the proper preparation, right? Just helps ensure like accurate delivery of whatever it is you're trying to do.
Exactly. And sometimes it doesn't, I'll be honest, I prepared for this. I wanted to make sure I sounded as smart as I possibly could. But sometimes you just need to check somebody's LinkedIn profile 10 minutes before the call. And if they went to Alabama, you can open up the call with Roll Tide, and that those kinds of interactions, just go a long way. Noticing somebody, oh, hey, I see you just got promoted. That, congratulations. or hey, I saw your team won the World Series. Those are little things that can go a very, very long way.
You just pouring that lemon juice on that wound. My college didn't have a football team, so I
Sorry.
always feel a little bit homeless during college football. Who do I root for? So that's why when I was looking for graduate type stuff, I was like, well, it has to have a football team because I got to have somebody.
Exactly, exactly. I was in the same boat, Casey. So I guess that's why I'm so hopped up on it now. But
That's it, right? Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So what's next in the progression of these key things that we're looking to focus on?
yeah, so now with that, you've started to build some engagement within your different segmentations. You're probably going to have started that engagement with your primary persona, whoever that may be. Usually in tech sales, it's somebody within the IT group or the CTO or CIO. So now that you have them engaged, like I said, the buying group is 8 to 12, 15 people that want to have a say. Some are just going to say yes or no to the dollar amount. Some are going to have influence but don't hold the decision making power. Some are going to look at it from a company point of view. Is this software safe to bring into my infrastructure? And is it going to work, as compliantly with all the regulations that we need to adhere to as possible? So, those are the people that you may necessarily be marketing to from the get-go, but they're very, very important in the process. And so you need to start expanding your buying group. And here is where it really becomes a team sport. If you're trying to expand into another uh, 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 division of a large organization, and you're doing business in the North Wing and you want to do business in the South Wing, getting your customer support team in to help get those introductions to those people, and anybody else that may be necessary. You want to start leveraging those LinkedIn networks and have your sales team start making connections to those people, personalized connections and outreach. You want to start expanding the buying group. So here's where you can narrow down your segments even more. I have these 10 companies in my pipeline, and I'm in consideration now. They haven't made a decision, but they won't until I get these other people combined. So I can start going out and trying to find those personas, those titles, and getting in front of them, even if it's just an awareness message, because once they're called into a meeting, they can say, oh, hey, I saw something about Archive 360 and they can help me with my data governance. So it's just really important to start expanding the buying group before you're looking for a signature on the dotted line.
That makes total sense. Yeah. And it's those in understanding that there are multiple touches, multiple humans involved, machines involved, people, decision makers. I don't know how we ever get anything done. I once had someone, drink too much B2C Kool-Aid and said, well, hey, if you can get this deal done, and I'm like just a maybe the referral and this I'm the refer I'm like the internal champion, but I'm not the decision maker in this deal. And he's like, if you can get this deal done, we have a contest. We can give you an iPad, and I was actually kind of angry and frustrated at that because it was like, there's no way on the planet I can get this deal done by next week. Like, whatever your timeline is, that's not my timeline. And I'm not going to go storm into somebody's office.
Exactly. And it can be very delicate because while this is your number one priority, you have no idea what the priorities are on the other side outside of this. And, usually unless somebody is coming to you, raising their hand with their house on fire because they had a breach or, something happened that is necessitating a move this instant, which does happen, but not as often as you would think. So, you really need to, there are things that from a sales perspective and a marketing perspective you could try to do to accelerate. But again, you go back to people wanting to do business with people they like. If they feel rushed or pressured, I know the second somebody tries to pressure me, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to go someplace else and start looking and talking to other people. So it's a delicate balance, and that's why I'm in marketing and not sales.
Exactly. Uh, um, how let's just, I'm not sure, like, where are we at in the numbers?
So that was number 3. The expanding the buying group was number 3. So I had four other 2 other points to get to 5. But and there's probably more things that we should be talking about, but I was hoping that this list of 5 would be enough to get your audience, like I said, to just start reorienting their thinking and set them on a path of things that they can do. Because most of this information they probably already have. It's just not organized in this way for them. So trying to give them a little bit of a ABC, 1, 2, 3, kind of off to the races template.
100%. Yeah, no, this is great. So, uh, expand the buying group. What comes after that?
So now you really need to start monitoring your intent signals and engagement so that you can make it actionable for yourself and for your sales team. And that's where your platforms will come into play. Um, any good platform should be able to notify you of, when engagement happens, help you aggregate, some of the touches. Some of that may have to be a little manual depending on your integrations and what platforms you have and how they speak to one another. So again, there could be some manual work, but once you make something actionable and give that, you can then take the next best step. So for instance, I had Acme brushes is my big top account, must have account for the year. And I just saw 5
Like, for
people.
real, or did you make
No,
that
Acme
video?
brushes is
Okay,
just
cool. I was
my
like, damn, you sold to Acme?
yeah, me and Roadrunner. We sold to Acme. So, Acme brushes. I just saw 5 people on my website checking out a couple different blogs that I just posted. And so now what? So from a marketing perspective, that actions me that I need to retarget them with now a mid-funnel message. Maybe, they've been on my blogs, they've been seeing what I've had to talk to. Now maybe it's time to get my product in front of them and my solution in front of them and how I'm going to help solve their pain. So that's a new ad, a new message, a new segmentation, a new landing page, new personalizations based on what just happened. And so you can see how, we're driving down and drilling down. And so that is work. But when I design a campaign, I design all of that into what we're going to do from top to finish. I want to start and I want to get to the finish line, and everything that happens in between, like this, I'm trying to account for with either, a plan or making trigger automations and trigger workflows within my systems. So some things can happen a little bit more automatic. But it's gathering those intentions and signals, making it actionable for marketing and then for sales. So here is a point where you're going to say, okay, nobody's filled out a form, but 6 people from your top account, Casey, has visited our website. Maybe it's time for you to start connecting to them on LinkedIn. Maybe it's time for you to send an email. Maybe it's time for you to try to start getting people on the phone. And nobody's filled out a form. Nobody's specifically said that there's an MQL, but there's enough engagement to give a signal that there's something going on there. And maybe your outreach is, not, hey, let's get on a call. Hey, here's some more information that might be of value. It's a value exchange. So you want to constantly, the one thing I hate, and I will take a BDR to task every time I see it, is, hey, just following up on my last email to make sure you saw it. Well, I saw it. I didn't action it because it didn't mean anything to me. So give me some value. Tell me, tell me something that I need to know and give me some value.
I hate that too. Yeah, can they just all stop doing that?
Please,
It's following
everyone,
up on my email. But you know
if
what
you,
stinks then is for when you are trying to get someone to follow up on an email, they won't do it because the BDRs have screwed up this phrase. So you have to use like a different phrase like, "Hey, doofus, there's action required of you on this, this task or something," because you can't say, "Hey, just following up on this," because it's like,
well, years and years ago, when the whole model of having a BDR or an SDR became, really in vogue, and I was working with my team at the time to set up their cadences, and we thought somebody came up with the idea of the last email being this breakup email that was just out of brand, out of character. And the one that did the best was when you open up this email, there's this big picture, GIF of jumping lemur monkeys. And the answer is, hey, maybe you're busy, or maybe you got attacked by lemur monkeys. If so, let me know and I'll send help. If you want to talk, or if you don't want to. And that garnered more response of, hey, maybe I want to talk to you. Again, that human element. So sometimes it just pays to test and experiment with that personalization and that outreach, instead of, hey, just following up on my last email. So just a little example of some of the things that have worked for me in the past.
yeah, that makes sense. You know what? Intent was never quite so clear to me until you've explained it this way. I do wonder though if it's like chicken or the egg, because if you get rid of all the forms, then you don't have a form fill. So you do then have to just look at things like they're all visiting the site, or maybe they're all using our resources. They're using them, but we're not having them complete any sort of like barter. So
The theory behind it is the theory. Sorry, Casey, but the theory behind removing that friction is if they're on a self-guided tour to accumulate as much information as they need to feel good about putting your company in their consideration set. Don't you want them to have all the information that they need? And then if they're considering you, they're going to say, yeah, I want to talk to you because now I need to know more.
doesn't I wonder, because I was always Mr. Form, for a long time, and I could just be outdated here, but I always thought as long as the form wasn't giant and your browser pre-populated most of it and the resource was worth it, people wouldn't care so much. It's just those gosh darn 12 field forms that for a PDF of something silly.
Right. And like I think I mentioned early on, there are still pieces of content that are worth gating. You want somebody to register for your webinar so you can see who's coming in. If you're in the Gartner MQ, you're going to gate that. Um, uh, a couple companies I worked for, we were able to pull annual analysis reports out of the data out of our system and make assumptions on what's going to be trending, in the upcoming year. That was always a big, well anticipated report. We're going to gate that. But a white paper on this topic, your blog post, an infographic, a video, even a case study, those are the things that people need to see, to learn about you, learn about your company, learn about your services, and understand and help them understand if it's going to be right for them and worthwhile exploring, and as a solution. So even if your technical guide, if you're sending it directly to someone, if it's posted on your website, that's information, that's a value exchange. Like, in that scenario where you've seen multiple people from one of your top accounts, visiting your website, hey, just wanted to give you a little bit more technical information to help you decide if we're really right for you. If you like it, let's talk on free Tuesday. And that's the value exchange. So why hide that? Why put a wall in front of that? And um, it's just it's a little bit of a reorientation, but I agree. If you have a form, make it short, make it simple, pre-populate where you can. and make it a progressive form. So maybe you can learn one more piece of information about them if you're asking them to, if you have them in the database, then that should be a progressive form, and you're asking another data piece. Um, and you can get another intent signal, from that form. Um, so those are all things that you can do automatically through your marketing automation platforms.
Right, right. Okay. All right. And so we're monitoring intent signals. We're taking action based on them, looping in SDRs, making things happen so that if intent is occurring, we're responding appropriately to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the last piece that I want
Wait,
to
should we like put a
oh,
paywall up? Should we put a paywall? Oh, there's a podcast that does this. Oh, do you want to hear the actual fifth of five? Yeah, yeah, you got to go subscribe to our.
yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm all about frictionless, so I'm gonna hand your audience the money, Casey. Hey, you've monitored those intent signals. You've set up all your trigger events to push them through the funnel. Guess what? You're not done. You are not done from a marketing perspective. There now you're creating whole new segments. You have people who are engaged with sales. Maybe there's an early stage opportunity. They're in the qualifying business. What can marketing do to help that and push it to the next stage of qualified opportunity? How can we get that to a demo? How can we get that to a proposal? How can we just keep pushing? And then once they've signed on the dotted line, how can we turn them to an advocate? How can we make them loyal? How can we then start expanding that account when it's time? So you're just never done. And those become your deeper and deeper and deeper segments. And not every problem in an organization is a marketing problem. Not throwing a marketing blanket over everything is not always the right answer. But there are distinct points along that journey that marketing can inject itself, working with sales, working with customer success, working with the product team to uh, to inject itself and inject the right message if you know where your prospect is on that journey. So a marketer's work is never done.
Never done, right? We're constantly iterating. We're constantly moving things around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I had another question. Where do you get your inputs from? Where do you like to learn?
Yeah, so I have I subscribe to a lot of different newsletters, Marketing Sherpa, Demand Curve. I'm in some groups on LinkedIn. I love the Content Marketing Institute, and I'm in some social media threads. But I love to just um, I'm one of those people where I let the advertising come to me. I like to see what people are doing. I like to see the customer journey that they're putting people on or not. I love to see how B2B marketers are now kind of entering into spaces that had been traditionally considered B2C only, and seeing some success there. And so I just kind of keep my finger on the pulse. I've always been interested in the ads and what people are how people are trying to present themselves.
It's funny. Like I will give a newsletter a chance, but then I'm killing those things so often. Like, oh man, you're not giving me the value.
Yeah, I do a cursory look and you've got to catch my attention, but it's easier to let them come to me than and catch that attention, and catch that one article that I'm interested in, than me just constantly going out and searching it. We're a small team here and I'm trying to do all those things that I just talked about and more. So I just kind of let them come to me. They sit, I have a automation that puts them in a folder and I check it once a week and I go after what I'm interested in. And I talk to people. I love talking to people. It's one of my mottos that there's no harm in a conversation. So I love to talk to people, hear what they're doing, hear why they're doing it, more importantly, why they're doing it, and the success that they're having, and how can I bring that back? And even if it's a B2C tactic, how can I bring that back into my own environment and apply it to what I'm doing?
What is a challenge you're currently trying to smash in your own organization in the marketing space?
Yeah, so in my current organization, I'm trying to really orient the company is shifting from an old model of their product to really disrupting how things are currently done. And it's not a sexy product, so it's not something that our IT targets are constantly thinking about until it blows up on them, type of thing. But so it's just been a different way of thinking for this company altogether, on how we're going to talk about this um, that's been around forever, but now we're doing it in a new way. And we've never really had a growth marketing function because they haven't needed it until now. So there's a lot of education upfront. Luckily, my CMO is amazing and behind everything that I'm trying to accomplish and supports me. And I can't thank her enough for that. So that helps a lot. But it's a lot of education, and it's a lot of um, you know kind of pulling everybody in to say, let's work on this together, let's collaborate on this together, that we all have a part to play here.
Oh man. My next question is really, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things?
I am a dork.
You
um,
say that, but I know you go skydiving, which we'll have to talk about in a little bit.
yes. Yeah, like you said, I am decades long in the business. So, but I've always just been oriented toward building my own knowledge base. So I pick it up and I carry it. And because of my career and how I've started and moved through, I've transitioned from, little technology to technology heavy. And I just I think I was really lucky in my career to always be in a position that was integrated. Um, so I always, I describe marketing to non-marketing folks as the head bones connected to the neck bone, connected to the shoulder bone. It all works together, and it has to, because, one email or one ad is not going to move the needle, as we've just discussed. So it is this ecosystem, and you need to know how they all work together, and when to use them, and when to pull, when to push and pull each lever and each tactic and each channel. And so I've always been in that position. And it's when I started my career, it was in vogue, then it went out of vogue, but I still stood my course, and now it's back in vogue a little bit. And so that's just helped me as well, to be able to understand and bring branding in, and communications and PR into my growth strategy.
Awesome. Well, what about little Gina? Did little Gina know she's going to be a marketing leader?
No, little Gina wanted to be a stunt woman.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. Little Gina wanted to be a stunt woman, and spent most of my youth jumping off at the top of the shed and
No.
trying trying to make that work. I stumbled into marketing on accident. I can't even remember now, but my very first agency job, I just came across in a social setting somebody at the agency and had a conversation, and they hired me, and it just took off from there.
Wow. Wow. Do you still jump off buildings even as a marketing leader?
I do not jump off buildings, but as you alluded to, I do jump out of perfectly good airplanes.
Yes. How long have you been doing that?
Since 2001. I took a tandem, my very first tandem. I thought I'd do one, maybe two, cross it off my bucket list. But I learned I have, and I guess it's all stemmed with jumping off the top of the shed, but I have serious adrenaline issues, and I got hooked, and went through the training to become a licensed solo jumper, and I've never looked back.
How many jumps if you had to estimate? Because I know you're at the pro level where you're like, I don't even log them anymore. But if you had to guesstimate how many jumps you have total, what would you say?
I would say it's probably around 2000-ish.
No, no big. 2,000.
Well, if you talk to some other people I jump with that have been jumping just as long, they eclipse me. But I also I'm not working at it. I don't take people on tandems. I don't video. I don't coach. I just fun jump, and I don't travel to warmer areas in the winter like a lot of people do. So that's but you know, it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of community behind it because the people that you're with you have their life in your hands and they have your life, so there's a lot of community, and that's really what keeps me going back.
What's your home DZ? Where do you go?
I go to above the Pocono skydiving in Pennsylvania.
Is that in shout out to is it Hazel Township or something like that?
Hazelton Township, yeah, yeah. So it was previously owned by a world record holder for the most jumps in the Guinness Book of World Records. He's since recently passed, but his wife Darlene is also a very very accomplished jumper, and they still run the drop zone out there. It's outside. I live in New Jersey, so there's just way too much air traffic between the major airports here. So I have to kind of travel. It's about an hour away from me. And I have to kind of travel outside of this major metropolitan air zone to be able to jump.
Well, heck yeah. I'm looking at it right here. Yeah, you know what? Why are skydive drop zone websites always the coolest? It's like,
Because they have pictures of people skydiving. That's why.
why can't business sites be this exciting, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That's your story. Well, I have a bit of a hypothetical question for you.
Okay.
Ready? See, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire.
Okay.
So let's say you're doing an event in Boston, you come on up, get some lobster, use the time machine, right? Actually, it's in the backyard covered in. So you
It's
use
in
the
the hot
time
tub
machine.
in the backyard, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You jump off. I don't have a shed, but you can jump off one of my trees into the time machine. Um, you get to go back in time and meet yourself a couple days after graduating. I know there's a graphic design degree and you get to go meet that version of you way back then. What would you tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would tell myself, yeah, data is going to matter, but trust your gut, trust your instincts.
Data matters, but trust that gut. Oh man, that is great. Do you think now? Follow up to that is, do you think you would listen to yourself?
Probably not, because way back then I didn't listen to anybody. But that's definitely a lesson I've learned over the course of my career, that you just need to trust your instincts a bit more, because they're generally pretty good, and I think that that's something that most people can tap into and apply to themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Where can people contact you? Where do you want them to go? What, social sites and, websites for archive? Where do you want them to?
Yeah, they can reach me on LinkedIn, Gina Spero. I'm open to connections, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and would love to have a conversation about. Like I said, I am all about conversation. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm happy to talk about. I'm happy to go a little bit deeper into some of the things that I'm doing here. I'm happy to talk about skydiving. I'm happy to talk about all of my dork hobbies like Marvel and and Star Wars. So, but yeah, happy to have a conversation.
Well, next time I'm in the area, I'll trade you. So you come, if you're in my area, use a time machine. I'll come back down there. You need to teach me how to pack a parachute, because that's
You
the
got
one
it.
thing
You
on my
got it.
list that I haven't clicked that in my head yet. I've seen it done a few many times, but
You got it.
the
You
A
got it.
cells, I don't even know. I don't even want to. There's different ones. Why is it so complex but yet so easy? I don't even know. But it's important, right? It's like important. You don't want to screw around with
You
that.
definitely do not want to screw around with that. So I actually, if I'm being honest, I still flat pack. I haven't taken on the modern ways, and I talk myself through every single step the way I was taught, just to make sure I'm doing it right. Still to this day.
Yeah, I'm sure. And someone's like, "Who's that crazy person talking to themselves?" Well,
Tells-
hey, I'm packing. That's good. Don't interrupt me either. Like I'm focused right now. I can't forget what step I'm on. Gina, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been an absolute blast. I'm looking through my notes here. We talked through the 5. We talked about total account engagement. Man, just eye-opening. Even some things that I've been sort of next to, but not really considering, going deeper on my segmentation, personalization. I have so many ideas, things I want to try. So thanks for coming on here, hanging out, chatting a little skydiving with me.
It's been a blast. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me, Casey.
Absolutely. And those listening, I'm talking to you listening right now. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us on this adventure and learning alongside with me. And if you did learn something, and I know you did, because I literally have notes over here, front and back, filling up not a notebook, but it's a solid piece of paper here. And back to my old system. But if your notebook's filled up like this is too, then share this episode with someone. It can be 9,000 people, could be 5, but it could be just that one other marketer that you know that really is struggling with this, or maybe they're in the old school ways and they got to bring this forward. They got to get with this and stop trying to be so transactional. Share this episode with them. Let Gina teach them the way about doing these things. And with that, Gina, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you. That was a blast.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.